We tend to imagine trust as a childhood milestone. Like walking or tying our shoes, it's a box we check off early, assuming the skill will stay intact forever. But under the weight of real life, that assumption often shatters. The truth is, the trust we learn as children is a passive experience. It is handed to us by caretakers who anticipate our needs and shield us from harm long before we have the capacity to test that bond for ourselves. The true gauntlet for our capacity to trust begins the moment we leave that bubble. Adulthood forces us to place our physical, emotional, and financial safety into the hands of a highly unpredictable world. That passive childhood baseline simply isn't built to handle the active betrayals and sudden risks and inevitable physical declines we are guaranteed to navigate as we age. To understand why, we have to look at where trust starts. Psychoanalysts like Erik Erikson and Donald Winnicott observed that an infant's entire reality depends on a mother's steady presence, and Winnicott called this uninterrupted state going on being. Because the mother provides a constant background of care, the infant's rudimentary sense of self can safely take shape without the need for constant anxious defense. This creates a psychological baseline, a confident expectation that the world will provide. It's a vital foundation, but it is also a fragile psychological anchor that we are forced to drag into the chaos of the adult timeline. As we hit young adulthood, that infantile anchor is immediately yanked into two massive directions: our work and our love lives. Both demand that we rapidly expand our willingness to be vulnerable. In the workplace, you have to rely on the guidance of established mentors to show you the way, and eventually you must delegate critical tasks to unproven coworkers, trusting they'll finish what you started. Romance is even more demanding. Dating requires us to tear down our defenses and place immense emotional faith into the hands of someone who is, initially, a complete stranger. If that progresses to marriage, the psychological demand spikes again. You voluntarily surrender absolute autonomy, legally and emotionally merging your life goals with another human being. This makes our 20s and 30s a critical threshold. For the first time, we are actively and consciously placing our emotional and financial security into the hands of others we simply cannot control. By the time we reach our 50s, the illusion of limitless time fades. We experience a profound psychological shock as our bodies lose their youthful agility and physical limits become undeniable. These internal changes are compounded by cascading external losses. Career trajectories plateau. Grown children leave the house, and the looming reality of retirement threatens to permanently strip away the daily social networks we spent decades building. Stripped of these external anchors, our capacity to trust is severely threatened. It is remarkably easy at this stage to slip into marital paranoia, bitter cynicism, or profound social isolation. Surviving midlife requires cultivating enough inner security to redefine who we are, even as our physical prowess and external utility inevitably decline. As we push into late adulthood, physical infirmity often forces a return to the complete dependence we haven't experienced since infancy. We find ourselves entirely reliant on family members to carry out our wishes, and we must place blind faith in medical systems to care for our failing bodies. This loss of control triggers a final, complex crisis, what Sigmund Freud called Todesangst, or death anxiety. Moving past this fear requires reconciling with the past, forgiving our own errors and the failures of others. This internal peace leads to an appropriate death, one that fits the individual's unique style and mission. It is a post-ambivalent trust, where we stop fighting life's contradictions and finally accept the natural order of the cycle. Ultimately, the highest act of trust is the ability to surrender our very existence to the natural order without being consumed by despair. Navigating this timeline requires us to rethink what trust actually is. It is not a static trait you are simply born with, but rather a dynamic, trainable muscle. Psychoanalyst Claudio Neri suggests building this muscle comes down to our ability to neutralize disappointments. This means relying on your inner security to process betrayals. Instead of viewing every letdown as a malicious attack, you learn to process it as a simple human error. This mental flexibility is what allows us to endure the friction of adult life without retreating into isolation or cynicism. When that inner security fails, the alternatives are bleak. We either descend into a paranoid personality that isolates us from the world, or we swing toward an extreme gullibility that leaves us completely defenseless. And this scales up to the macro level. The economist Amartya Sen observed that when societies lack transparency and fail to build mutual trust, the result is deep political and economic stagnation. A fully realized adult life is one lived in a state of calculated, deliberate vulnerability. Trust is the quiet, everyday audacity to build a career, fall in love, accept our aging bodies, and face the end of our story with peace rather than panic.